Hi there, I'm Greg Cottrell from Concord and Ninth. I'm so excited to be joining you with this video all about our new C9 Color Collection 2025, as well as our Color Club. If you're watching this video, it means you're already a member of the C9 Color Club. So welcome, we're so happy to have you. Today, this video is going to take us through that Color Club kit that you received. We're going to talk a little bit about each of the new colors, how they play with some of their neighbors in the C9 color spectrum, and then we're actually going to have a chance to craft together as well with an exclusive die, Blooming Hello, which is included in the kit as well. So let's go ahead now and we'll switch to our overhead camera and start looking at the colors. Okay, so here we have our Color Club Color Collection 2025 kit. It comes in this nice folder, and if you haven't opened it yet, let's open it together. You can see here, you open it, there's this nice splash of color where over here on the left side, we're going to meet the colors a little more in depth. And then in a minute, we'll get to this section over here on the left or the right side where we'll have an opportunity to craft with the colors. If you're here, you likely followed this QR code to get here to this video. So if you haven't had a chance to look closer at the colors, let's go ahead and do that now. And what we wanted to do with our 2025 color collection is we came out with some really unique colors that work well. I think they work well together, but they also work really well with their neighbors in the C9 color spectrum. And so first we'll start over here with Brickyard. It's a softer side of red, as it says here. And if you pull this out of its little pocket, you can see that it pairs so well with watermelon and cranberry. These are existing colors in the C9 color spectrum. You can see here how nice that would go with the holidays with this nice deep, rich red of cranberry, and then the softer side here with Brickyard. But then if you pair it here with watermelon, you can see how nicely that goes, and it almost goes more of a springtime look. So it just is a nice in-between color for both watermelon and cranberry. So that's Brickyard, and it's a nice kind of bricky red. It's very aptly named. The next one over is Pimento, and Pimento is a really nice punchy color. It's quite vibrant, and you can see here it looks nice with poppy and sorbet. So poppy is our more orangey, bright red. It's a very true, real red. And then you can see also, though, how it looks there with sorbet. So sitting right there in the middle is Pimento. And it's a really nice, kind of bridges even more between the corals and red. So that is Pimento. I wanted to show you as well how Pimento looks. Let me just put those down for a second. Pimento looks next to Brickyard. They're a really nice pairing as well. So let's go ahead and stick those back in their pockets. And we'll keep moving down the line. This next color, Starfruit, is so fun. It's very, very, very vibrant. And it can work as a yellow in your projects, but it truly is more on the green side. It bridges the gap between yellows and greens really well. It's a bright yellow-green. Look at it there next to lemongrass and then also grasshopper. So it really ties in well with our very yellow greens. A very nice little spectrum there. This is a great color if you're just looking to add that punch of brightness to help pull out some of the rich tones of like a deeper color. So that's Starfruit. And then Pistachio here is a really pretty color. It's dusty and it's kind of sagey, and it looks really nice here with Artichoke and Sprout. So there you can see it with Sprout and it goes very springy, and here with Artichoke it really ups that tone of Artichoke there. Really nice. I feel like we've been missing a friend next to Sprout for a while, and so it's really nice that Pistachio has joined the mix here and can play well with Artichoke and Sprout. Then next we have this very like grayish blue. It's a moody blue. Looks really nice here next to Peacock and also Tide Pool. So you can see it's a really nice, it can almost act as a neutral at times, but really just a nice kind of dusty bluish color and looks really, really, really nice together. And then plumberry is our final color. It's a really pretty, more jewel toned purple, and it kind of bridges over towards the pinks. If you're wondering how it compares to fig, you'll want to pull out some of your fig cardstock. It's more amped up, and you can see here next to Briar Rose and Ballet Slipper, it's just such a remarkable gradation of colors here. We love it. We actually moved in the C9 color spectrum. We've moved Ballet Slipper to the front, and then Briar Rose and Plumberry. So these three colors are the beginning of our C9 color spectrum moving forward. So those are the 6 new colors. They're really fun. Obviously, I've shown them next to their neighbors, and that's the swatches you have here in your folder. We have some other video inspiration from Megan Andrew, Bethany Deschamps, and Laura Basson that are showing other uses of these new 6 colors with our other colors in the C9 color spectrum. Today we're going to actually be crafting though with just these 6 colors, and then also introducing it with a little bit of champagne foil and white cardstock. So that's what we're going to do over here today. So let's go ahead and jump into this little pocket here. I'm going to pull this over so you can see. Don't forget to get your little sticker out of there that says Color Love, and it's in the 6 new colors of 2025 at Concord and 9th. And then there is a die in here. It's the Blooming Hello inlay die. And if you flip it over on the back, you can see an example of kind of what we'll be working on today. And it's just a great inlay die. We're going to cut this out in multiple colors and then use a bunch of the different colors to piece back together. So we'll get to that in just a minute. But also in your pocket here, you have a variety of cardstocks that we're going to use in today's card making. So you have a half sheet here of Brickyard, a half sheet of Pimento, another half sheet of Starfruit. You have 2 half sheets of Pistachio. One is used as a card base, the other is going to be used in cutting out the die cuts. And then you also have 2 half sheets of Lakefront. Again, one will be a card base and the other will be used to cut out the die cuts. And then there's a half sheet of Plumberry. And then you have 2 half sheets of white as well, because you'll cut again with the die cut. And then you will also use one of those as your card base. And then there is a half sheet as well that you'll cut out using the die. And then you'll have a leftover half sheet of cardstock. You're welcome to go ahead and make all of those. You can make other color combinations and just use that other half sheet as you like. So I'm going to go ahead then and move our folder off for now. And I wanted to show you first the 3 cards that we'll be creating today. I just love how this die works together to create such just really fun and impactful cards. We have this one with a lakefront base, white base here for this one, and then a pistachio base on this card. These 2 cards on the right here are essentially the same type of card, so I'm only going to walk through one of those, but we can talk about the difference afterwards between these 2 cards and what I did on this card versus this card. So we'll use the one with the white card base for the instruction today, and then we'll go ahead and walk through this card as well. All 3 cards were made with die cutting one time in each color that you were provided with in the folder. And there are tons of leftover pieces. I would encourage you to keep those, and you can play around with other color combinations that you'd like to. So we didn't have to die cut anything more than once for these 3 cards. All of these are using unique individual pieces. So let's go ahead and pull those off now. And I will show you, again, here's the die. And then what you're going to want to do, and you can go ahead and pause the video here in a minute, but you can see I have die cut these out in all the colors you were provided in that folder there. So I have pistachio, here's starfruit, brickyard, pimento, plumberry. I have it here in champagne, white, and also lakefront. We are going to be using the lakefront the white one, and those are going to be used for the piecing cards. And then all these other leftover pieces, hold on to those because you can make a super fun metallic card with this as your base attached to a card base and then piecing back in on that. So hold on to these other pieces. These were the fallout of those dies, and definitely don't want to throw those away. So then I'm using these scrapbook.com sorting trays. They are the best thing ever when you're working with multiple die cuts. I have everything organized here in this. So I'm going to just pull these out and show you real quick. So I have Brickyard and pimento in this tray, and I've already kind of separated the things that I'm going to need, but you'll find out what we need as we go through the cards. And then I have pistachio and starfruit in this one. I have my white and my champagne in this one, and lakefront and plumberry in this tray here. So I'm going to have these just kind of up and off to the side, so I have access to them as we start crafting today. But what I wanted to tell you too is if you don't have sorting trays, there are all sorts of ways that you can keep things kind of organized and divided. And whatever method you prefer is absolutely fine. But I like these trays. They're nice, they're small, easy to use in my workspace. And so that's what I'm using today. So for our card, I'm going to do the white card base card that I showed you just a moment ago, right here. And we're going to be using champagne for the letters, pistachio on some of the greenery, but then I'm also using lakefront on some of the greenery as well. I guess I should call it bluery, right? If it's not green. But yeah, all the foliage parts are lakefront and pistachio, and then I'm using brickyard and pimento on the flowers and their centers, and I'm kind of alternating those through the card, and then lakefront on these berries as well. So that's what I'm going to be using for that, and then that's the card we're going to go ahead and do right now. So I'm going to pull the lakefront off to the side, and I've done my die cutting. If you would like to do your die cutting now, go ahead and pause the video and run a quarter sheet, a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 sheet of every color that you were given, and then you can organize them however you like. And after you've done that, join me back here, and I will continue to keep going. And what I need to do now is take my card base. I chose to do a side fold on mine, but you are welcome to do a top fold or however you want to do this. But I did a side fold, and then I am going to go ahead now and adhere this die cut panel onto my white card base. I'm choosing to do a matching card base to whatever panel color I'm doing. You are more than welcome to mix and match colors. I just, for me personally, like the coordination. So that's what I've chosen to go with, but there is always freedom to do things however you like. And I'm going to go ahead and just put some dabs of glue all over the back of this. I'm just trying to touch down a little dot every once in a while that I can make sure it has a nice little hold. And on some of these parts here where you have these longer kind of tendril pieces that you want that kind of hang out by themselves, you want to make sure you get at least a dot of glue on those as well, because those will tend to want to flop around or flip up after you adhere it down. And if you miss a spot and you find there's a part that's still kind of raised up, you can always lift that little piece up. Get one dot there and one dot here. I think I'm pretty good on my dots. And you can always, yeah, if you need to lift up an edge, and you can adhere that down afterwards. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going for it. I'm just laying it down on top of there. You could use a MISTI tool or a scoring tool if you want to corner both that card base and panel together, but I find I like to just kind of eyeball it, and it gives, being liquid glue, it gives me a little bit of wiggle room and forgiveness if I need to move that around at all. So you can see there, now I have a tone-on-tone card with my base and my die cut piece on top there. So next, I am choosing to go with, I'm going to save my sentiment for last just because I feel like it's going to be done in that champagne foil, and it's a really nice pop of shine there at the end. So I'm actually going to go ahead and do my blossoms first, and I am going to alternate which blossoms I use. So I'm going to actually do my Brickyard blossoms on these two top ones, and then a third Brickyard. Give me a second. I have a trusty little jewel picker upper. I'm going to do that one here in the middle down here, okay? So I'm just placing these for your reference right now, but then I'm going to use pimento on that blossom, and then I have two other blossoms down here that I'm also going to do in pimento. So now whatever placement I did, I'm going to alternate. So with the Brickyard, I will use a pimento center on that, and vice versa, I will use a Brickyard center if I used pimento on the blossoms. So let's go ahead. I'm going to adhere these down first. I like to do the blossoms first because I find that they, and here I am, I'm off screen just applying a little bit of glue to each of these. And I like to apply the blossom first because it's kind of my biggest piece when it comes to piecing this back in. And I like that because it helps me set the foundation for the rest of the paper pieces that will be glued in. And I'm going to actually put a little temporary adhesive on my card here so it stays nice and flat while I continue to show you all. So I'm going to place those back here for now. That one goes there, and this one goes here. And I will continue to work my way across. So I'm going to go ahead and lay down a pimento. You don't need a ton of glue. I am classically someone who glues down too much, but I find that a little glue goes a long way when you're doing piecing dies. And then let's go ahead and get this Brickyard one. And while I'm gluing, because gluing can be somewhat of a repeated, monotonous type of thing, I find that I love this type of card making. It fulfills that puzzler side to me. I love doing puzzles, and this is kind of that very relaxing way of making a card for me. So, but I wanted to talk a little bit about these colors and how we decide colors at Concord and Ninth. We, as a team, we're just very passionate about color. A lot of us have a background in design and really just enjoy color theory. And so when we introduced colors initially at Concord and Ninth in 2020, we started with a very, I don't want to say primary palette, but a lot of the basic colors though, the foundational colors. And then we expanded our line of colors in 2023, and we almost doubled how many colors we had. And at that point then we had 48 colors in our color palette. And then last year in 2024, we introduced 6 more colors. And then this year for 2025, we're introducing 6 more colors. And with each new color release, we're able to get more and more dialed in to some unique colors. So for example, this starfruit color is a nice bright yellow-green. We would have probably never done that with our initial color release because it's a kind of unique, fun color. Same thing with pimento and lakefront, where it's a moody blue, but it's not a true like primary blue. And so it's been really fun in recent years as we've expanded our color line to have more than just the basic colors to add. And these new colors, they accent so nicely. If you have your swatches, get them out with your other colors from C9 and see how they work together. And it's just, these fill in a gap really nicely with some colors that we haven't had. So I'm really excited about that. And then here I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna add a tiny bit of glue actually right onto my card base to add these little tendrily centers. They're so delicate. You can use tweezers. I am not super dexterous with the tweezers, so I actually just use my very, I have very thick hands, and I still find that I can handle the paper a little bit better using my bare hands. So, but these being so delicate, these little centerpieces, I'm just adding a little bit of glue right there onto the card base because I know exactly where it's going. It's a pretty defined space. And you alternate your colors. Just, if it was pimento petals, do your brickyard center. And if it was the opposite, just do the opposite. So, and you can see I'm just putting a little bit of glue down. If a little extra glue goes down, it's not a problem. I just dab that off with my finger. But you can see it's just making pretty quick work of this. So I'm gonna go ahead probably and I'll just go ahead and add all the glue here. So I'm doing each of those little dots and then a little arc right there. And you're welcome to play with other colors. This was just a color combo that I really liked. I think the reddy colors from this release look really nice together. And so that's what I've gone with here, but it could be really pretty with a white center on there or a champagne center. Just up to you. And then I have just one last little center here on the petals. So now I'm going to go ahead and speed up the video a little bit because the rest of this is piecing. So I would like to just go ahead and speed this up as I do the foliage. So anywhere that I have a flower, I'm applying the lakefront pieces, and anything that's attached to the berries or just the standalone foliage, I'm going to do in pistachio. So I'm going to go ahead and speed the video up now as I continue to work through this, and I will be back talking with you here shortly. Okay, that brings us to the point now where we're ready to use our champagne die cuts to fill in the sentiment. And what I love about this is this hello right here is small enough that if you wanted to cut out a little panel and stamp any sentiment on here, you could. But I love that the sentiment is actually built into the die, so it can be really like just a really straightforward application. So I'm actually just adding a little bead of glue across all of these cutouts here, and I'm going to place each of those letters. And I love how satisfying it is to just have the perfectly die cut little pieces drop in there. You can absolutely keep your little center for your E if you would like, and place it back in there. But because my card base is white, I'm going to go ahead and just leave that. And that is absolutely fine. And then the L's, if you notice, the top part is very flat and then the bottom has a little tiny curve to it. So that's how you know which direction to put those. And then here is my final letter, the O. And I am getting that on there. And you can see that our card is complete. And I just love how that turned out. I think that is a very appropriate card for any occasion, but beautiful here for the spring when we're releasing these new colors. And I love the little bit of shine there that champagne foil offers with that sentiment. It really makes it the centerpiece of that, but the floral and foliage cascading all around there is so nice. Again, this one I used Brickyard and Pimento as my reds, and then Lakefront and Pistachio for my foliage and also little berries. And then the champagne foil here. I'm going to pull on the other card to show you, because it's essentially the same technique. I didn't have to die cut anything extra. This is all coming from the same initial die cuts, but I'm going to show you this card that I used the Lakefront panel that was die cut on a Lakefront card base, exactly like I did here. If I wanted to change it up, I could top fold this one. But then here I've used, on the stems, I've actually changed those up quite a bit. So I've used on the flowers my pistachio cutouts, whereas over here they were Lakefront. And then I've made that little pop of shine with the foliage and the centers of the flowers in the champagne foil. And then I also used starfruit on the berries, on the stems there, and then white for the berries themselves, and then also the sentiment. So two very similar cards, but very different looks when you use different color palettes. And then Plumberry over here, I just love the look of that champagne with Plumberry. It's kind of playing with complementary colors there, where the champagne has that gold yellowish hue to it, and then the Plumberry being a complementary color to yellow is very nice together here in this card. So two very different cards using different color palettes. But exactly the same technique. So you have all the products to create both of these cards with only die cutting once. Then this next card here is a fun piecing card. And it's simple. And again, I'm only using what I have here from my initial die cuts. And the panel here, let me find... I will find out what the dimensions of the panel are, and I will superimpose them onto the screen so you can see. But I have a panel here that is like, I think it's 1 3/4 inches by about 3.5 inches or so. But I will get those on the screen there for you. And then I have laid the hello over top of that. And what I want to show you though, with creating this, is if you find that you're having a hard time aligning your hello. So we'll go ahead and do that first, and then we'll piece everything. If you're having a hard time though knowing exactly where to put those, because in the cards, these first cards, it's very easy to find the placement because you have a little recess there in the die cut to show you exactly where to lay that. But on this, we're laying it right on top. And so what you can do is with one of your extra die cuts here, you can lay that right over top, and you can lay that down on there and put a little glue in there and piece things in. But what I also like to do is I'll just take a little pencil, and I will actually, because it's going to get hidden, I'm going to do this. You can always just eyeball it with having this over top. But I find this technique is just as easy, and we usually all have a pen or a pencil laying around. So now you can see there, I have the exact placement that I need for each of those letters, and these are going to be done in the lakefront. So I'm actually going to, maybe I'll put that on the letters themselves, but I can also do it this way, where I'm just tracing over my little pencil there. Or if you want, I can show you on the next letter where I have where I can glue right onto the, you can see it dropped that right there. And so as long as your pencil is covered, then you know that that is lined up nicely on there. And so the next one I am going to do is the E. And this one I'll apply the glue directly onto the letter itself, again, just with a few little dots. There we go. And again, if you're one of those people that likes to use your tweezers, I know that there are tweezer purists out there that like to do that. I'm a hands-on, very hands-on person when it comes to stuff like this, but that's just my personal preference. If you like to hold on to things with your tweezers, I'm actually very impressed with the people who can use their tweezers with such dexterity. I feel like they're kind of the, for me, they're kind of like chopsticks, which is funny because I actually can very easily use chopsticks, but for some reason I can't use the tweezers. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and put this other L on. And again, as long as I'm covering up my little pencil line there, then I know that it's lining up correctly. And I very easily could have just taped this down on top. But sometimes I know people with, especially with very delicate little die cuts, sometimes people are like, I got stuck in there, or so I find that a basic little pencil outline takes no time at all, and then I got that a little up and to the left, but what I could do is I could just trim another little 1/8 inch off each side. But what's most important is that my hello is correctly aligned there and spaced nicely as it's supposed to. And yeah, if I got that off center at all, I could just like take a hair off of here and here. I'm just going to leave it though. I'm not too concerned about it. And then what I'm going to do is take my pistachio card base here, and so I've got the foundation of my card and I've got my sentiment done. So I'm going to set the sentiment and then now I'm going to, for the purposes of the video, and sometimes I like to use temporary adhesive when I'm making a card just to keep that nice and flat on my surface. But we're going to play around with piecing a little bit here now. So what I need is, from my die cuts, I'm going to use my blue foliage here, that's the lakefront. It looks so nice. I mean, you could do this with pistachio and do it tone on tone, but I like having a little bit of the contrast here of the lakefront against the pistachio base. I'm also going to use some of my starfruit foliage, and these are the stems for the flowers, but look how nice they look. They actually look like little blossoms almost, and so I'm going to use those as well. So I'm just getting my pieces gathered, and so you can as well. And these, real quick, are going to be the ones on the bottom. This is going to be the one that goes on top. So I have a short one and then two of the long ones here, a long starfruit stem there, and then these are going to kind of point to the top right and bottom left corners of the card. And then I'm going to also use some of the pimento flower petals that I had left over. And this time I'm going to use the white center cutouts. Okay, oops, that one followed me off there. Okay, so these are all the little pieces that you're going to need. I want to show you real quick before I pull these off the screen. Look how many leftover pieces I have, and think about all the different color combinations that you can play around with as you use these other pieces. So I'd love to see how you all use those. If you're in the Color Club Facebook group, feel free to share your extra creations using this die if you've bought this, and show people how you played around with the colors as well. So this is what's fun about crafting and card making, is we are just providing the tools and the color, but it really is up to you as the end user and the card maker how you want to do this. So I'm going to continue to show you though how this card is coming together for me. What I like about this is I'm choosing 2 corners and those are my focus, and then I'm kind of leaving these areas a little more open. I just like that it provides a little bit of dynamic layout to this. If I had everything going to every corner, it's a different look and it's not a bad look. I'm just choosing though to focus my energy on these 2 directions. And anytime I'm doing a floral spray of sorts, I try to have elements of, like, you don't want to have all one color. Like, so these, if these were all starfruit down here and all lakefront, that would become imbalanced. And so what I'm doing here is I have touches of starfruit at 3 points here, and then I have touches of the lakefront at 3 points there. And then the pimento flowers just help to kind of ground the whole thing. And they offer that nice contrast. The pimento is a nice heavy contrast to everything else on the card because you have your blues, yellows, and greens, which are all closer in the spectrum. And then this pop of pimento on there is just such a nice punch there at the end of the card. So let's go ahead and start gluing some things down. And it's important to note too that I'm only going to be gluing at the base of these. I want the ends to be able to manipulate those a little bit and give it some dimension. You certainly can glue everything down all the way. I prefer to have a little bit more play in the die cuts, and so I've just put a little bit of, and I'm actually going to scoot all of these off so you can see that how this comes together. I've put glue on the leaves and a little bit of the stem, but the rest of that is just hanging out at the top there. So then I'm going to just work my way down the card, and I'm going to focus on the foliage first. I'm going to place the flowers last because I want to kind of tuck those in behind the sentiment. And so that is what I'm going to do last. So again, just put a little bit on those leaves. I have the leaf kind of poking up there on its own with that little lakefront piece. And then again, I can use this as a visual guide, but to kind of see. And there is a very, very loose formula to this where we're playing with some balance with color and things like that. But the placement, it's still going to be somewhat organic, okay? And that's intended to be that way. If you fuss too much with foliage, it's kind of the same thing with sequins and embellishments and things on cards. If you play around with it way too much, it can come across as too forced or contrived. And we're just playing with this, okay? It's not going to be wrong, but you can keep following along. So I'm just working from top right corner to bottom left corner and kind of alternating and playing through colors and kind of letting the card talk to me a little bit as I go, okay? And you can use this always as a little guide to make sure you're liking where you're placing things. You have a little bit of time to move things around if you need to. And the nice thing with only gluing the ends down, if you're very unhappy with where you place something, you can more easily pick that little piece up and reapply glue and put it down somewhere else. Most likely it's going to be covered. So you don't have to worry too much about that. Okay. Then I placed my last piece of foliage here. Okay, so I have a nice balance. I've got some lakefront and starfruit on both sides of my cards, going both directions. I am really liking that. And then the last thing, and I wanted to do the blossoms last because I want to be able to see where I want to place those exactly. And you can use anything you want to. So these are both obviously die cut already, and there's not a base for those to hold on to. You can absolutely just glue those on if you want and let them be a little bit floaty. They will absolutely stay in place. But if you're nervous at all about those moving around, I just have a little Scotch tape right here. And I'm gonna just take a little piece and put it on the back. And it's gonna just hold that in place right there. But the other thing you could do, we have 1/4 inch double-sided tape here, and you could also just take a little piece of that, okay? And then I'm just gonna have it span across. You can see that, it has the liner on there. It's spanning across the tendrils of the center of the flower and across the petals themselves. And then, this is the part where maybe I needed tweezers, right? I peeled off the backing on there, and you can see that it's adhering down in multiple places on there, so that's not coming apart at all. So then what I'm gonna do is loosely just place this on here about where I want it. And then what I can do is then tuck and place exactly where I want that. And that's not going anywhere, okay, because it has that double-sided adhesive. So I'm actually gonna do the same thing to my second flower, and we're just about done with this card. Flip this over to the back side, and you can tell the back side because it's the side that's got a little bit more of a hard edge on it versus the softer edge that was die cut. And I am going to put that double-sided adhesive, and your card receiver is none the wiser as to how you put that together. And the important thing is that it's just going to stay together, and you don't want that coming apart. So I'm going to go ahead, and I've decided to put that right about there, okay? And there it is. Kind of looks funny without the sentiments on there, don't worry. And then you can either glue this down right onto the card, or I always like to pop it up with a little bit of foam tape. Right now I just have some double-sided adhesive, so that's what I'm going to use. But if you'd like to pop that up with some foam tape, by all means do that. So I've just applied some of this double-sided adhesive to the back here, and pull that back on camera so I have that on there. And then I'm going to go ahead and place that right there. I've put my sentiment a little bit above center, if you're like from the bottom of the card. I feel like it helps to pull the whole card up just a little bit visually, but I have centered it side to side, if that makes sense. Sometimes when you place things a little lower on the card, it tends to feel heavier and a little more imbalanced, even if that's totally center. So I always try to push it up just a little bit. I even did a little bit more on this first card here. But you can see there that card is complete and very easy to come together. I used some of my leftover pieces in here. You could replicate this so many times with the leftover pieces you have in there. So I'm going to go ahead and pull these back on real quick and show you all the 3 cards with the products you were provided with in the kit. You have the first one that we worked through together, the second one where we just changed up those colors, and then the third one here where we played around with some piecing, all using our new 2025 color collection. So excited to see what you all create with this, and kind of fun that this is the first of many kits and products and promotions and opportunities to play with color here at Concord and Ninth as part of the Color Club. I want to thank you again for joining me today as I introduced the new 2025 color collection. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I loved crafting along with you using the Blooming Hello die. And I would encourage you now to go take a look at the videos created by Megan Andrew, Bethany Deschamps, and Laura Basson. Super talented designers. They've each taken some of these new colors and they're going to show you how they work well with other colors in the traditional C9 color spectrum. So I would encourage you to look at those. And then if you haven't, I would also like to invite you to join us on our Facebook group for Color Club. It's going to be a great meeting place to gather and talk about all of our things that we love about color and share things and share inspiration. And so you can follow the description below, or there will be a QR code at the end that you can also click on. And I hope to see you there, and I hope to see you again real soon here at the Color Club.